Revealed, 7 spine-chilling secrets hidden in churches and other haunting true horror tales. The tales of the old churches whisper secrets that come alive in the shadows. In Hopewell, Maine, the town's ancient church looms over the streets, a weathered giant with its towering steeple piercing the gray sky. But as locals gather, tales circulate of what lies beneath a history soaked in sorrow, with echoes of long-lost souls lingering in the air. 7 spine-chilling secrets, they say, pulse through its very foundation, causing the bravest townsfolk to shiver with each knock of the wind. Lisa, a single mother of 32, often found herself drawn to those unsettling stories as she raised her rebellious teenage son, Ethan. He was the kind of kid who brushed off his mother's concerns, always chasing the thrill of urban exploration. Their little haven quickly turned from a quaint New England town into a hotbed of eerie happenings. One late autumn evening, Ethan stumbled upon the attic of the church, his heart racing with the thrill of the unknown. He felt a chill that made his skin prickle, the unmistakable sensation of being watched. Within the cobweb-laden corners, he found symbols etched into the wooden beams, ancient runes that spoke of darkness. "Mom, you've got to see this," he called, excitement spiraling into unease. As the sun set, casting grotesque shadows, they both felt the weight of generations pressing down on them. In his naive thrill-seeking, Ethan had ignited a series of unsettling events. Furniture began shifting in Lisa's home at night. Whispers filled the halls like ghostly pleas for help. The townspeople whispered too, as cries echoed through the rustling leaves, haunting wails that chilled the bones of even the most hardened hearts. Lisa felt her chest tighten as panic spread through Hopewell, leaving a suffocating heaviness in its wake. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Determined to bind the community together, Lisa organized meetings in the church, rallying her neighbors to confront their collective fears. There, in the flickering candlelight, they shared stories of loss and fright, voices trembling with vulnerability. While Lisa's strength grew, darkness lurked even closer. A chilling realization dawned upon the townsfolk: a part of their history, a hidden price paid by previous generations, had indeed come back to haunt them. The whispers grew louder, and Ethan's thrill-seeking adventure turned into a ghostly nightmare. As he faced the malevolent spirit awakened by the attic's secrets, the clock ticked closer to a confrontation that could either shatter Hopewell's fragile threads of unity or galvanize them into action. With every heartbeat, the line between reality and the supernatural blurred, engulfing the town in a suffocating haze of dread. As Lisa stood at the threshold of the church, a sudden gust of wind rushed past her, icy fingers beckoning her to uncover the truth buried within time. What dark revelations awaited them? Would the courage born from their shared experiences be enough to confront the evil that watched from the shadows, hungry for their despair? And as the ground beneath them trembled, the unanswered question lingered in the air: would they rise together, or crumble under the weight of their own fears? The church bells tolled ominously, echoing across the town like a warning. Inside the dimly lit sanctuary, Lisa felt the weight of her neighbors' eyes as they gathered around her. Shadows elongated, the flickering candles seeming to tremble with anticipation. "We can't ignore this any longer," she urged, her voice rising above the murmurs. "Something is happening here. We need to confront it, together." Yet in the back of her mind, doubt gnawed at her. Was their unity strong enough to face the darkness that had come to call? Ethan leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his face a mask of defiance mixed with fear. "Mom, it's not just stories. Something's different. I can feel it." His voice cracked slightly, revealing the cracks in his bravado. A hush fell over the gathering. The townsfolk shifted nervously, recalling the recent uproar, the lost pets, the sudden illnesses, the relentless whispers that echoed through their homes at night. They all sensed it, that looming dread, like a storm brewing just beyond the horizon. Suddenly, the church door creaked open, a blast of frigid air swirling into the room, pushing the scent of damp earth and decay. From the shadows emerged Mrs. Cameron, an elderly woman whose gaze was both piercing and unsettling. "You think you can bargain with what haunts us?" she rasped, her voice choked with emotion. "You think the past can be silenced?" The crowd shifted uneasily as she approached the altar, her gnarled fingers clutching a faded photograph. "This is my son," she whispered, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "He was taken by the darkness long ago, a sacrifice to keep the evil buried deep." She thrust the photograph toward Lisa, revealing a ghostly image of a boy who looked eerily like Ethan. Lisa's heart raced. So many questions clawed at her mind. Was there a connection? Had they unwittingly awakened something that had been kept at bay? Suddenly, a crash reverberated from the attic, silencing the room. Dust fell from the rafters as if the very structure protested against the intrusion of memories long hidden. Lisa glanced at Ethan, whose wide eyes mirrored her own mix of fear and anger. "Stay here," she ordered, but Ethan was already stepping forward, drawn by the call of adventure and dread. "No. You can't go up there." Lisa reached for him, panic surging through her. But the pull was irresistible, an invisible thread weaving him towards the attic, a place of secrets and despair. As Ethan climbed the creaking staircase, he could hear a low chanting, a blend of voices rising and falling like the tide. They were words he couldn't understand, yet they prickled against his skin, igniting the thrill. In that moment, he glanced back, eyes locking with Lisa, a silent understanding passing between them. This wasn't just an exploration anymore, it was a quest into the heart of fear. "Ethan!" Lisa shouted, desperation creeping into her voice. "Don't!" But he was already gone, the attic door slamming shut behind him, leaving the townsfolk below in a charged silence. Outside, shadows twisted. The wind howled like a wounded beast, sending chills throughout Hopewell. As the sun dipped away, darkness closed in. Lisa's heart pounded in her chest. She knew, deep down, that whatever horror awaited Ethan, it was now too late to turn back. With trembling hands, she moved toward the stairs, her resolve hardening. "We have to go after him," she called to the crowd. Fear and determination collided in the air, and every moment felt fraught with purpose, but before they could act, a thunderous crash echoed through the church, rattling the windows. The ground shuddered, and then the lights flickered and went out. In the pitch black, a whisper curled around them, a chilling voice echoing through the darkness. "He will not return." As they stood frozen in fear, the question loomed: would they dare venture into the shadows to save him, or would they succumb to the terror engulfing Hopewell? The air in the church thickened, an ominous weight pressing down on them. Lisa's heart drummed in her ears, drowning out the whispers of doubt. She couldn't lose him. Not like this. Not to whatever shadow had taken hold of their town. "Gather around," she shouted, her voice cutting through the suffocating darkness. "We can't split up. If anything waits up there, it's not only Ethan we're trying to save." The crowd exchanged uneasy glances, fear crisscrossing their faces like a tightening noose. But just then, a flickering candle caught her eye, its weak glow proving enough for her to gauge the tension in the room. Faces that had once been familiar had morphed into masks of dread. One woman, Grace, trembled violently, clutching her young daughter's hand. "What if we never see him again?" Grace's voice quaked, and Lisa could see the fear that bubbled just beneath the surface, threatening to erupt. "We won't let that happen," Lisa said, her voice steadier than she felt. "But we must act. Together. Now." With a shaky breath, she led the way toward the staircase, each step echoing in the darkness, drawing the townsfolk forward. A handful followed, but several hesitated, rooted to the ground as if the heaviness of their dread was anchoring them firmly to the floor. Mrs. Cameron's eyes locked onto Lisa, a warning flicker behind that haunted glare. "You don't know what waits in the shadows. The darkness feeds on fear. It will take more than courage to face what lies above." Lisa clenched her jaw, swallowing her skepticism. "Then let us leave fear behind," she shot back, igniting a spark in her voice. "We owe Ethan that much." As she stepped into the narrow hallway leading to the attic, fear danced at the edges of her mind. With each creak of the old wood, it felt like someone or something was watching. The chanting intensified, a rhythmic pulse vibrating through the air, luring and repelling her all at once. Ethan's voice. She could almost hear it entwined in the sinister melody. "Ethan!" She called again, desperation clawing at her throat. A patch of light spilled from the attic door above, erasing some of the darkness and revealing the outline of her son standing just beyond. Relief washed over her, but then the chanting warped into an eerie laughter, resonating against the walls. Lisa's resolve faltered for just a moment, the fear settling into her bones as the laughter turned into a menacing crescendo. Suddenly, without warning, the door swung wide open and Ethan staggered back, eyes wild and glimmering with an otherworldly gleam. "Mom!" he gasped, but there was something off in his voice, something not quite human. Lisa took a step forward, a chill racing down her spine. "Ethan, are you okay?" But something was different. The energy that surrounded him crackled with darkness, a shadow that swirled about him like a living cloak. "You shouldn't have come," he said, his voice layered with something deeper, something ancient. "You know what happens to those who seek the truth." The townsfolk gasped as one, stepping back. The murmurs escalated to a sudden uproar, chaos spilling into the small space as the crowd recoiled from Ethan's words. They could feel it, the darkness, and it was close. Too close. Lisa felt a primal fear wash over her. "Ethan, come back." But the words were no sooner out of her mouth than the ground trembled beneath them. The candles flickered wildly, casting grotesque shadows that danced along the walls. It was as if the universe itself was responding to that dark laughter, the church transforming into a twisted arena of fear. "Mom! I can't hold it back much longer," he said weakly, and just like that, the air seemed to grow heavier with expectation, an entity lurking just beyond their grasp, waiting for the next move of the townsfolk were losing faith, backing away further. "We have to run!" someone shouted. But Lisa stood frozen, her heart racing. Ethan needed her. Could she truly face the darkness they had awakened? "Stay! Don't leave him!" she screamed, gripping the edge of the staircase. Facing Ethan with every bit of courage she had, she stepped towards the pulsing shadow, determined to pull him back from the edge, but just as she reached for him, the laughter grew deafening, drowning her out. Darkness spilled from the attic like water breaking a dam, rushing toward them all. As the town teetered on the brink, a chilling realization set in. They weren't just facing the horror, they were becoming part of it, and so, the question lingered thick in the air: would unity be their salvation, or inevitable doom? Ethan's eyes shimmered with something unnatural, yet Lisa couldn't let herself look away. The shadows wrapped tighter around him, shuddering as if they had a pulse of their own, alive in the thickening air. "Mom, you need to leave," he shouted, his voice rising above the chaos, but it was laced with an urgency that sent daggers of fear through her. "No. We're in this together, Ethan." Her voice was steady despite the trembling in her hands. Every instinct told her to retreat, but the pure love for her son pushed her deeper into the storm. The townspeople were in a frenzy, frantic whispers clawing at the walls. "We can't let it take him," Grace cried out, rushing toward the door, but a figure blocked her path. Mrs. Cameron, her face grave, the sparks of fear in her eyes glowing like embers. "We cannot fight what has already entered our hearts." The church itself groaned under the weight of contention. Lisa watched as bodies shifted uncomfortably, grappling with the choice to stay or flee. But the shadows ebbed and flowed like living smoke, radiating a pulse that pulled at the very essence of their will. It was intoxicating, as if surrendering was the only way to find peace. She turned back to Ethan, who was struggling against the encroaching darkness, and something flickered in her memory. "Ethan! Fight it! Remember the stories we used to tell each other? The ones about family and love battling the darkness." Desperation dripped from her voice, hoping her words could anchor him the way her heart anchored her. A flicker of recognition crossed his face, his twisted expression softening for a heartbeat. "Mom!" The light in his eyes dimmed as if the shadow within him was a gaping maw, hungry for control. It's too strong." In that moment, Lisa felt a surge of determination, overwhelming her fear. "No! You are not just a vessel for this darkness. You are my son. Remember us." She took a step forward, arms outstretched, ready to embrace him regardless of the risk. All at once, a rift opened in the shadows above, a whisper of violent wind snaked through the rafters, pulling at everything in the room. The candles sputtered and then went out, plunging them into a darkness that screamed with ethereal laughter. The people in the church howled as if the dark energy had wrapped around their throats. Lisa felt it too, a constriction, an urge to escape that throbbed like a battle drum urging retreat. But Lisa stood firm, her decision made. She couldn't abandon her son. "Ethan! Hear me. We are stronger than this. The moment hung suspended, suffocating, and heavy. The laughter transformed into a low growl, reverberating off the stone walls, vibrating through the very ground beneath them. The crowd around her echoed her resolve, voices layering together to form an almost tangible force. We are stronger. Just then, in the thick darkness, a spark ignited from the depths. Light burst forth, an explosion of fear and hope intertwining, unfurling towards her. Lisa shielded her eyes, every nerve in her body alert as shadows writhed and hissed at the growing illumination. Within it, she saw Ethan, caught between fear and awareness. He trembled, struggling against the pull of what swirled around him. Mom! It's coming! Fear pierced through her, electric and raw. The darkness recoiled, as if it too felt the weight of their collective will. Lisa locked eyes with Ethan, willing him to fight the looming shadow threatening to consume him. But as the light enveloped them all, a chilling howl erupted from the depths of the night, resonating through the walls of the church as if the very ground was splitting open. In a moment rife with agony and determination, Lisa's heart sank. Was this the end? Or merely the opening of a far deeper terror? As the shadows clawed their way back, reclaiming their dark dominion, a terrifying revelation settled. Something ancient and powerful was awakening, and they would have to face far worse than they ever imagined. The doorway was closing, sealing off their only hope for a way out. Would they find a way to confront the very thing that hungered for them, or would they be swallowed whole by the darkness? And as the light flickered above, the chilling truth echoed in her mind: they were far from done, and the real nightmare was just beginning. The cacophony of despair and fear echoed through the church, reverberating against the cold stone like a haunting melody. Lisa clutched her son's name, a lifeline, binding her to him as the shadows twisted violently, swirling around them with an insatiable hunger. Ethan! She cried, her heart racing against the impending dark tide. The light flickered precariously, illuminating the terrified faces of the townsfolk, wide-eyed like deer caught in headlights. Mrs. Cameron's lips moved in silent prayer, a futile plea against the palpable dread thickening the air. For a brief moment, the shadows hesitated, the malevolent energy almost tangible as it pulled back, recoiling as if struck. Lisa felt every eye on her, silent, pleading. Their collective breath hitched, instinctively searching for a resolution. With a surge of courage, she pushed forward, stepping into the heart of the turmoil. Fight the darkness together. We can't let it take any more. Ethan's form was barely visible, more silhouette than flesh beneath the undulating shadows. But the flicker in his eyes grew glimpses of the boy she knew, trapped beneath layers of torment. Mom, I can't hold it anymore. It's like a storm inside me. His voice trembled, desperation clawing at her heart. Then let us create our own storm. Lisa shouted, her voice ringing out like a clarion call. Together! The shadows hissed around them, a sinister sound filled with mocking laughter. It wrapped around their bodies, pulling, squeezing, threatening to silence her words. But she pushed against it, forcing an image into her mind, a time when they laughed together, when nothing stood in their way. Ethan, remember when you were brave? The day you found that old tree fort? You claimed it was the strongest fort in the world. For a flickering instant, Ethan's face brightened. I remember. He gasped, the shadows swirling like tortured smoke, and for a fleeting moment, the purity of that memory broke through. But his voice wavered, this is different. Then we will make it our story. Lisa reached out, grasping for the warmth of his presence, pulling with all her might against the darkness trying to claim him. In that moment, she realized the only strength that mattered was love, but how to wield it against a force so ancient, so terrifying? Then came a sudden silence, a stillness that pressed against her ears, heavier than the darkness itself. In that fragile moment, the shadows recoiled, their movements stilled like the pause before a thunderstorm. The townspeople, drawn into the rage, seemed to draw back themselves, hearts and fears momentarily synchronized. The darkness pulsed, breathing a thunderous hiss as it once again gathered its strength, ready to sweep over them all. Shadows shrieked in response, darting toward Lisa, seeking to extinguish her light. But she stood firm, her heart a roaring flame, fueled by the love she poured into the atmosphere. You don't scare me. We are more than this darkness. Just as she delivered her defiance, Ethan's voice broke through, a fragile whisper echoing through the shadows, "Mom, hold on." With a ferocious pull, the luminous spark flickered more fiercely than before, like a beacon piercing through a fog. The townspeople began to murmur, voices rising again like a wave, lending their resolve to the fight. "We are stronger. We will not cower." An ominous growl resounded, more potent than before, shaking the very foundation of their sanctuary. The walls themselves seemed to tremble, the church a battleground caught between light and dark. In a sudden moment of piercing clarity, Lisa realized that the shadows couldn't just ravage physical beings but could twist reality if they let it. They needed to seize their collective strength before the shadows prevailed. But even as thoughts raced, a chilling thought clawed its way into her mind. What if this battle was just the beginning of something far worse? The light exploded forth, momentarily overwhelming them all. In that blinding white, Lisa could barely catch sight of Ethan, but she knew he was there, her son, fighting against the darkness that wanted to consume him. In the breathless silence that followed, she made a promise, one that echoed through the chaos. "I will never let you go, Ethan. We will find a way." Yet as the shadows writhed, the question lingered, could they truly face what lay ahead, or was it simply the calm before the storm? In that heartbeat of moments, Lisa caught a glimpse of something in the depths of the darkness. Something watching. A new kind of dread settled deep in her gut. What awaited them in the depths of this nightmare? The answer loomed closer, but for now, it remained shrouded under layers of shadows yet to be unveiled. The light pulsed one last time before fading, leaving the church cloaked in a suffocating darkness. Lisa's heartbeat roared in her ears, the air thick with a damp chill that clawed at her skin. Her breath turned to mist, swirling around her like phantoms seeking to escape. Ethan's faint outline shimmered ahead, and she stretched her hand forward, yearning for that connection. "Ethan, I'm coming." She pushed against the silence, each step feeling heavier, laden with the weight of despair and fear. The shadows seemed to writhe, seeking to claw back what light remained in their midst. As she drew closer, she could hear Ethan's soft whimper, the sound shattering her heart. "Mom, I don't know if I can keep fighting." His voice carried a vulnerability that echoed direly within the chamber, layered with the overtones of the shadows whispering insidiously around them. Resolutely, Lisa tightened her grip around her heart, focusing on the love she held for her son. "Ethan, listen to me. You are not alone in this." She chanted the memory of laughter, the warmth of family dinners, the playful adventures they shared, each thought a thread, weaving a tapestry of hope amidst the engulfing darkness. "We're in this together. Find your light." The shadows hissed angrily, a cacophony of voices that scratched at her mind, trying to drown out her words with dreadful confusion. Then, from the depths, something loomed, an amorphous figure, constantly shifting, as if woven from nightmares themselves. Lisa's breath hitched, a gasp caught in her throat. "Do you think your love can save you?" The figure croaked, each word a serpent slithering through the dense air, wrapping around her throat. Lisa could feel it suffocating her spirit, draining the last remnants of courage. "This place, it has bred fear. It clings to the souls that rot in darkness." The townsfolk shifted uneasily, caught between terror and the surge of Lisa's unwavering spirit. Faces that once radiated panic now looked to her for strength, mirroring her resolve as she stood firm against the malevolence creeping closer. "No!" she cried, her voice echoing defiantly. "We are not defined by fear. This church was built on hope, on community. Our love can push back against the shadows." The shadows intensified, surging upward like dark waves crashing against the cliffs of Lisa's convictions. And then, a new chilling realization gripped her. What if these shadows were not just random darkness, but manifestations of their deepest fears and regrets? What if they were real, tangible nightmares birthed by each person around her? The figure advanced toward Ethan, tendrils of darkness reaching hungrily, threatening to ensnare him. Lisa felt her insides twist with terror. "Ethan!" Before she could move, the townsfolk joined hands, forming a human chain. "We are here!" they shouted, a chorus of voices lifting in defiance, sparking a wave of light that began to intertwine with the shadow. Yet the figure merely laughed, a sound that echoed through the stone, chilling every spine. "Do you truly believe you can stand against me? You are all just memories, shadows of your former selves. Lisa struggled to hold on to hope but felt her own memories, past disappointments, failures, and lost loved ones swirling dangerously close. "No!" she screamed, pushing the darkness away, determined to remember their strength, their community, but the shadows took on faces, twisted and tormented versions of the people she knew. They taunted her. "You can't escape what you've lost. You can't change the past." Desperation shot through her, but Lisa could also feel something stirring among the townsfolk, a flicker of unity igniting. "Remember your strength," she said, her voice penetrating the gloom. "Remember what we survived." As a collective force surged through them, the shadows flickered and recoiled, uncertain. Lisa could see a gap forming, a space where light struggled to break through. But the lurking figure remained, pulling back into the recesses, lurking just out of reach, a harbinger of more sinister revelations. "What else do you fear?" it hissed, slithering away, leaving behind taunts that reverberated through the darkness. Lisa's heart raced. The shadows had only just begun to reveal their true nature, but what lay behind the figure's twisted facade? What more did they have to face? As the dark anticipation loomed over them, a thought cracked through her mind. What if the answers rested not just in the church but also within themselves? The shadows roared once more, drowning her in dense silence, the undertow threatening to draw her and her son back into a tide of darkness. What lay at the heart of their fears? The answers remained shrouded, waiting for the inevitable reckoning. The shadows writhed, thick and alive, as if reaching for Lisa, curling around her ankles like hungry serpents. Her heart pounded, a thunderous drum signaling her fight against the creeping dread. "Ethan!" she called, each syllable straining against the oppressive weight of darkness. The figures of the townsfolk flickered by her, their faces alive with fear, yet somehow their hands stayed clasped, a crude lifeline against the terror that threatened to swallow them whole. Suddenly, from the depths of the shadowy void, the figure re-emerged, its body contorting, morphing into a familiar visage. Eyes wide with horror, Lisa recognized it as her late husband, Tom. An anguished scream hung at the edges of her mind, twisting her emotions into a tightly bound knot. "Mom, I miss him," Ethan's voice cracked, breaking her focus. "No!" she shouted, her voice fierce even as doubts clawed at her. "He's not here. He's gone and we have to go on." But the shadows ebbed and flowed like a tide, each wave pushing against the strength of her resolve. Thomas' shadow took a step closer, his once warm smile twisted mockingly. "You left us first, Lisa. You think love can save the ones you have lost?" The townspeople hesitated, their unity faltering. Fear curdled into chaos as they struggled to maintain their grip. "Don't listen," Lisa urged, her voice rising above the murmurs of despair. "We are here. We are alive." But the whispers wrapped around them, tearing at the edges of sanity. Each voice in the darkness spoke a truth wrapped in a layer of doubt. "What if you never make it out?" they hissed. "What if you betray us again?" The doubts morphed into familiar faces, long-dead friends, family, all dripping with the weight of unresolved pains and fears. "Find your strength," she cried, but it felt like her words were absorbed by the void. The grip of terror tightened around her chest. Was this all an illusion? A fantastical play to break them down? Lisa turned to Ethan, who now stood trembling, eyes wide with tears. "Mom," with every ounce of will, Lisa shook her head, refusing to surrender. "We have made mistakes, yes. We've lost so much, but we still have each other." She turned back to the shadows. "You will not win. You cannot conquer love." In response, the environment trembled as the figure lunged, moving faster, its tendrils reaching, hungry for despair. Just as it came within inches of Ethan, a storm of light emanated from the townsfolk's clasped hands, illuminating the chamber in a warm glow that pushed back against the darkness. "Together!" they shouted, their voices spiraling into a cacophony of defiance. The shadows recoiled, skepticism etched on their haunting faces. For a fleeting moment, there was clarity, a shimmer where hope thrived against despair, but it was fleeting. The darkness surged once more, illuminating grotesque images of loss and failure in flashes. Lisa felt her breath catch, the memories of her most painful moments swirling before her eyes. A car crash, the hollow ache of grief, the silence that settled in her home after Tom's death stop. She screamed, forcing her way through the horrifying montage. She fought to remember the laughter, the joy, the hope they had shared. "We can overcome this." The fervor in her voice refueled the light, and she felt an unyielding bond forge anew among them, a radiant connection tethering them to life. Yet, even as the shadows seemed to flicker in retreat, the figure loomed in close. It grinned maliciously, revealing jagged teeth that glinted like shattered glass. "You can't escape what's within," it spat. "The truth is lurking." The final word hung ominously in the air, dripping with foreboding. Lisa's pulse quickened. What truth? What lay deep within her that could bind them? The shadows howled, and the reality twisted. As the tendrils reached out once again, Lisa braced herself. There was more to uncover beneath the surface, not just the fears, but something hidden beneath even those shadows. An unsettling thought echoed in her mind. What grotesque secret of her own had she locked away? What awaited them in the dark beyond? The air thickened with dread as the grasp of the shadows tightened, squeezing the townsfolk together like iron on steel. Lisa's heart raced, each beat echoing louder than the whispers that threatened to drown her spirit. "What truth?" she whispered, almost to herself, as if voicing the thought might summon it from the depths of her own buried fears. Suddenly, a chill slithered down her spine. The figure that had taken the form of Tom wavered, like a flickering candle in the wind, but its malevolence remained unyielding. "You've hidden from it long enough," it taunted. "What if your denial is the very shadow that binds you?" Ethan stepped closer, still trembling, his small hand reaching for hers. "Mom, what does it mean?" he asked, his voice trembling, thick with confusion and fear. Faced with the shadows closing in, Lisa held her son's gaze, her own resolve wavering but igniting again at the sight of his innocence, even amidst the chaos. "We'll find out together," she promised, gritting her teeth against the fear, against the longings of her heart. The darkness hissed, swirling around her, seeming to mock her defiance. The townsfolk shifted uneasily, casting anxious glances at one another, as if each shadow-formed face had the power to peel away the layers of their fears. The cacophony of doubts inside began to resemble a symphony of despair, each note plucking at the strings of grief and guilt. Just then, a spectral light pulsed from within the crowd, illuminating the features of the townsfolk, revealing their faces in stark clarity against the chaotic darkness. Murmurs spread through them like wildfire, whispers of lost hopes and broken dreams intertwining with the clouds of doubt. "If we confront what we fear," one woman started, her voice steady even against the growing storm, "then we might just rise." A man shouted, his arms raised defiantly, catching the spirit of the moment. They were tethered together, forming a web of strength against the encroaching dark. "Together!" was echoed like a rallying cry, and Lisa seized the opportunity. "This isn't just about me. Each face has its own history, its own burden. We all hold the weight of secrets, regrets. But together, we can face them. We can fight back." A flicker of defiance ignited in the townsfolk. They stood firm, hands clasped tighter, an electrifying energy rippling through them. But the shadow snarled, a gnarled smile stretching across its face as if it were a child mocking their awkward attempts at bravery. "You think you'll conquer me?" it sneered. "The roots of your fears grip deeper than you realize, Lisa." With a rush, shadows lunged at each individual, an array of voices uncoiling like snakes. "Remember," they slithered, "the promise you broke, the love you abandoned, the child you neglected." Each accusation struck as hard as a physical blow, and the crowd recoiled, unsteadiness creeping back into their minds. Lisa gasped, absorbing the weight of accusations that bore her name. Memories flashed before her, the times she had chosen work over family, moments where she had said no to Ethan when she should have said yes. Guilt rushed in like floodwaters, almost drowning her. "Stop!" she screamed, battling against the tide. "I've faced my past. I've grieved. I am more than my mistakes." Her voice rang out defiant, powerful. "I am not defined by fear. We are not defined by pain." Yet the shadows wove through the air, taunting her with visions of the mistakes she wished she could erase. Lisa's chest felt tight, and amid the chaos, darkness whispered secrets that rattled her core. "It's not just grief. It is shame, disloyalty. A truth buried deep. You don't even know what you are hiding." Look deeper, Tom's apparition urged, his voice a mixture of warmth and coldness that sent shivers through her. Each memory is a thread that binds you to us. Don't let the shadows hide it. Determined, Lisa took a step forward, swallowing hard against the lump in her throat, courage bubbling through the sorrow. What could it be? The shadows danced, a cruel reminder that something vital was lurking, waiting to be unearthed. But before she could confront it, a loud crack echoed through the chamber, sending the shadows recoiling momentarily, parting like a tide. Light streamed from an unseen source above, refracting through darkness and momentarily illuminating a void. Lisa's heart raced. The pit in her stomach twisted tighter. What lay within that light? And what awaited them beyond the shimmering edge of truth? The moment hung, raw and electric, as they all held their breath, poised on the brink of revelation. The shimmering light expanded, casting golden rays through the dark. It felt like a promise, but the shadows hissed, swirling menacingly, desperate to reclaim what light had momentarily stolen. Lisa clutched Ethan's hand tighter, feeling a surge of energy around her. The warm light filled her with hope but was quickly stifled by fear. "What's happening?" Ethan whispered, his voice barely above the whispers of creeping shadows. "Stay close," she urged, her heart pounding against the walls of her chest. The townsfolk began to murmur, their faces a blend of apprehension and anticipation. Then, the darkness began to dissolve, revealing a figure at the center of the radiant glow. Lisa squinted against the brightness, pieces of her heart aching with familiarity. For a fleeting moment, she could almost feel Tom next to her. Was he really gone, or were they all trapped in this twisted illusion? "Face the truth, Lisa," the figure said, its voice clear but soft, echoing like a bell in the stillness. "You cannot run from the choices that shaped your life. You must confront what you've hidden." In that moment, images exploded in Lisa's mind: the laughter of family dinners, the warmth of early morning sunshine spilling through windows, but also the coldness of empty rooms in a house filled with silence. The regret swirled within her like a relentless storm. Each face appeared one after another, like pages turning in a long-forgotten book, and with each turn came the weight of memories too heavy to bear. "No!" she cried, shaking her head. "I've done my best. I fought for them for what?" The figure interrupted gently, a haunting sadness in its tone. "Is this what love looks like? Were you truly there for them?" Inch by inch, the glow began to diminish. The townsfolk shivered, expressions ranging from fear to guilt as they were reminded of their own contentions. One by one, their shadows began to manifest into swirling portraits, hallmarks of their worst fears and regrets. A woman fell to her knees, weeping, as a cold voice echoed from behind her, "You left me behind." The shadows were relentless, encircling her, each taunt digging deeper into the hearts of those present. Lisa tried to gather her strength, to resist the pull of the shadows closing around her family. "No! We are not defined by our past. We can choose? The shadowed figure cackled, its voice laced with mockery. "You think you can choose when what you hide is the very foundation of your pain?" Suddenly, cold hands seized her shoulders. Lisa recoiled but found herself stuck, unable to break free. The memories rushed at her, like waves crashing against a vulnerable shore. "Lisa, remember," Thomas' form flickered back into view, desperation echoing in his voice. "Every thread counts, every choice creates the pattern of who you are. But you must be brave. You must unveil the truth and revive what is fractured." The town's despair peaked, a collective inhalation as darkness clawed at their resolve. Desperate glances shot back and forth. They had retreated so far into their own shadows that facing the light was now the ultimate gamble. Fear wove through their hearts, prompting them to doubt if they could stand strong together, but amidst that whirlwind of doubt, an ember sparked. Lisa felt a stirring within her, a connection with the townsfolk wrapping around her, anchoring her heart. "This is our moment. We must seize the light." She shouted, murmurs began to swell, members of the crowd igniting their resolve. "Together!" They echoed, a chant like thunder rolling through the once quiet chamber, and then Lisa felt it, the tug of the past unraveling and the faces of her family converging into a singular, radiant truth that threatened to shatter the shadows if only she dared to confront it. Could she face what had been buried? Was her heart strong enough to heal the divisions that had haunted them for so long? Ethan's eyes widened, sensing the shift. He squeezed her hand, his innocent courage fueling her own. But just as she felt the weight of the moment, a deafening roar erupted from the shadows, a sound so primal it resonated in her bones. No! You cannot face it. You cannot know. The shadows twisted violently, a maelstrom of fury and fear, ready to strike. Resolute, Lisa squared her shoulders, drawing the townsfolk near. We will not be destroyed. We will not hide from the truth any longer. The chaos surged, pushing against them, but with every ounce of her being, Lisa held onto the light, refusing to let the shadows take what they fought so hard to uncover. As the light threatened to engulf the darkness once and for all, a chilling voice echoed through the air. But what if your truth is more terrifying than you can possibly imagine? For the first time, uncertainty pierced Lisa's heart. Could they handle what lay ahead? What would the truth reveal, and would they be ready to face it? The shadows screamed and writhed, pulling violently at the edges of their resolve, but Lisa and the townsfolk stood united, hands clasped tightly together. They felt the strength of their shared memories coursing through them like lifeblood, a lifeline against the despair that sought to consume them. Ethan! Lisa shouted, locking eyes with her son, and his expression was a mirror of her own fear and determination. Remember who you are. A moment of hesitation flickered in Ethan's eyes, a spark of recognition amid the chaos. Yeah, Mom, I won. Let it win. His voice rang with defiance, echoing through the thrumming darkness. The figure in the shadows hesitated, its mocking grin faltering as it sensed the shift. It lunged forward, aiming its darkness at the heart of their collective strength. You think you can defy your very nature? It hissed, tendrils of shadow reaching hungrily toward them. I will unveil the truth, all your failures and regrets. Lisa felt her breath hitch, every word like ice running down her spine. But she held tight to Ethan's hand, drawing strength from their bond. Together! Lisa shouted, amplifying the townsfolk's voices. We are not defined by failure. We are defined by love. As if responding to her words, the golden light pulsed once more, a living force pushing against the encroaching darkness. The townsfolk stood resolute, driven by a will to fight, a belief that they could spark a change. Suddenly, the shadows grew still, rippling uneasily, as if realizing the power of unity stood in opposition to its chaos. You think love can save you? It taunted, but there was a hint of desperation in its voice. Yes. Echoed a chorus from the townsfolk, voices intertwining in a symphony of hope. Love can guide us through the dark. We have cried. We have healed. We dare to face what lies ahead. The air crackled, a storm of emotions swirling, each participant in that moment unlocking a piece of their own truth, casting away the burdens that had become weighty shackles. The shadows recoiled, the figure shifting back, uncertainty dawning in its grotesque face. Then, Ethan spoke. Mom, we have to do it together. He squeezed her hand tighter, eyes fiery with determination. I'm not afraid. With every heartbeat, the cohesion around them solidified, and a blinding light emanated from the townsfolk, illuminating the chamber like the dawn after a long night. Lisa opened her arms wide, inviting the warmth of unity as it swelled between them. Push them back. She commanded, her voice ringing through the vessel of shadows. We're stronger than our past. We are each other's hope. We will not let darkness consume us. The cacophony of voices merged into a chorus that threatened to shatter the shadows once and for all. The spectral light erupted, illuminating the church, cascading over the shadows like a tidal wave. As it surged forth, the phantoms wailed, twisting and stretching like the distant cries of the regretful. Now! Lisa shouted, feeling the surge of power flood the air. Let go of what has held you back. Let your light shine. The darkness screamed, collapsing under the weight of love and belonging. The shadows began to disintegrate, vaporizing like fog in the morning sun. Lisa caught a glimpse of the townsfolk, faces lit with new clarity, newfound hope sprinkled among them like stars against the night sky. With one last pang of resistance, the figure of Tom stood before her, ghostly and flickering. You must embrace your truth, Lisa, it urged. Only then will this nightmare end. Lisa hesitated, heart racing, understanding dawning upon her. Could she face her own regrets, her pain? Taking a firm grip of Ethan's hand, she stepped toward the flickering specter, determination shining in her eyes. I loved and lost, I've mourned our shared moments. But I will not let fear determine our fate. In that critical instant, she felt a release of burden falling from her shoulders as the light enveloped them both. The echoes of Tom's figure began to fade, and Lisa felt overwhelming closure flooding through her. You are free, she whispered, a chant of love woven into her words. Know that you are always with us. Then, the shadows unraveled entirely, a final burst of illuminating energy exploding outward, lighting up the entire church, dissipating the darkness until only the warmth of their love remained. As the last shreds of shadow evaporated, the townsfolk stood in wonder, hugging one another, laughter and tears a powerful echo through the once haunted space. The room was filled with warmth, a sanctuary rebuilt through their shared truths. Within that sacred space, Lisa clutched Ethan tightly, feeling the weight of their journey lifted. We did it, she murmured, overwhelmed with relief and gratitude. We're safe now, right? Ethan asked, his voice still slightly trembling, still searching for assurance. Yes, she replied, heart swelling with love, we're safe now. And outside, the sky began to pink, hues of dawn painting the horizon, a new beginning for Hopewell, a fresh chapter ready to unfold. The townsfolk stepped outside, gripping the hands of those beside them, newfound unity shining in their eyes. As the last tendrils of darkness vanished with a final whisper, the church, once a mere structure, now stood as a beacon of light, a symbol of resilience, a testament to their collective strength. In that moment, they knew they would carry their story of love and unity into the future, ever vigilant, ever willing to face whatever darkness might lie ahead together. And now, dear friends, it's your turn to be part of this journey. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next gripping tale. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm, keeping our community strong. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion today. Your support matters so much as we uncover the next story. Let us keep this adventure alive together.